Hi, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today for our Facebook Live conversation about summer work and travel. My name is Greg Bernstein. I'm the Deputy Consul General and the Visa Chief at the U.S. Embassy in Kiev, and I'm happy to be back with you again today to talk about summer work and travel. This is my second time to do this, and some of you may also have seen our web chats on the Diversity Visa Lottery and other topics related to consular work. This presentation today and this Q&A will be in English, unlike our DV Lottery one. While all of our consular officers at the embassy speak either Ukrainian or Russian, we figured for us, well, it's just easier for us to do it in English. And second, for some work and travel, you guys are required to speak English. So today we'll be speaking in English. I'm really happy to be joined as well by my colleagues Anna and Will, who will briefly introduce themselves, and then we will get started with your questions. And certainly I encourage you, if you have a question, if there's something you want to know about summer work and travel, now's your chance to ask us directly. So please do write something on the Facebook page. Follow us on Instagram. I think we're going to be trying to do some Instagram live stuff as well today. So please follow along and let us know your thoughts, and we'll do our best to answer all your questions.
Hi everyone, my name is Anna and I coordinate the summer work and travel portfolio in the consular section in the embassy. So I will be answering your questions along the way during the season. And I will...
Hi, my name is Will. I'm one of the visa officers, so I actually do the interviews that we'll be doing at the embassy. I want to thank all y'all for tuning in, and please don't hesitate to ask any questions. There's no question too small. I guarantee if you've got that question, then there's 20, 30 other people who have that question too, so don't hesitate to ask anything.
Okay, and we have questions already. So the first one is, how will academic performance of university students, tourist history and English level affect interview results this year? This is a question from Victoria.
Okay, thanks for the question, Victoria. We generally look at the entire student when we are evaluating somebody, so we'll look at a whole myriad of things. We'll look at course of study, what your grades are, what your travel history is like. We'll look at all of that kind of thing. There's no one single thing that's going to make somebody stand out. We do require a degree of English proficiency that's going to be sufficient to let you get a job, though. And so we will conduct an interview in English.
That's right. We don't want to, your English doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
Just like for those of you who saw my DV presentation, my Russian is certainly not perfect. But at the same time, you have to be able to speak enough English to the consular officer that he knows that, or she knows that you'll be able to get your job and that your employer will be happy with you in the U.S.
And also be safe.
Yeah.
And be safe.
Yeah. And I know that I personally can speak really quickly sometimes, so there's nothing wrong with asking the officer to speak a little bit slower if you need to, if you didn't quite understand something.
Okay, let's move on to another question, and it's from Instagram. How many % of visa denial was last year for some work and travel participants?
Okay. Well, we generally don't talk about the exact percentage of visa denials or issuances, but I can say that unfortunately the denial rate last year was fairly high, and that's due to a range of factors. The main thing that we look at is the overstay rate, how many people come back after their travel to the U.S. And the lower the overstay rate, then the lower the refusal rate. And the higher the overstay rate, the higher the refusal rate. So we certainly hope that all of you will go, have a good time, make some money, see America, and come back to Ukraine to finish your studies.
Okay, we have another question from Natasha. She's asking whether students, Ukrainian students who study in Poland can have their visa interview in Ukraine, as far as I understand.
Well,
in Kiev, yeah.
No, I think that they want to have the interview in Poland.
Well,
yeah.
Well, let's answer both.
Okay. Anyway, students who study in Poland are welcome to apply at the U.S. Embassy in Poland, in Warsaw or in Krakow, for their summer work and travel visa. However, students that are studying in Ukraine should come to Kiev. I think if you would have a hard time trying to get an appointment in Warsaw or Krakow if you're studying in Ukraine.
Yeah, that might be the case, and you should check their requirements for some work and travel program this year, and we will post our requirements today after this web chat. Okay, another question from Inga. How many Ukrainian students are expected to take part in some work and travel program in 2019? According to preliminary statistics already collected by U.S. Embassy from Ukrainian agencies. Well, we're so far we have about 1,000 applicants that are going to be participating in this year's season. We'll see. Maybe there will be more, hopefully.
And as in prior years, we'll make sure we have enough appointments available for everybody who wants to interview to get one.
Okay, another question from Instagram. Till what age can students participate in the program, and also can master students participate in the program? Well, we don't have any age requirements. You just have to be a bona fide student at the accredited university, and master students can also participate, taking into account that it's not their after the last semester. If their last semester already finished, they cannot participate. But if they're still in the taking classes and going to the university full time, then they can participate. It's no problem with us. Okay, we have another question from Natasha. What kind of personal qualities does a student have to have a visa, to get a visa this year? And if you get denied, it's the second part of the question. If you get denied, can you reschedule your interview, or apply again?
Well, those are two really good questions.
Yes.
So to address the first question, what characteristics or personal qualities should a student have? The main requirement and the main thing I want to emphasize is that you should always be honest with us. Make sure that you fill out your visa application accurately. If you get someone to help you, make sure that you put their name on there, that they helped you fill it out. Those are the kind of things that right off help us get off on the right foot and help you to get your visa. Other than that, to be a student in good standing, making normal progress. In Ukraine, you're required to have a job offer before you come, so you should have your job offer with you and be able to talk about your job, where you're going to go, how much you're going to make, where you're going to live, how did you find your job. Those are all the kinds of questions that we ask during visa interviews. And for the second part of your question, can you apply again after you've been refused? You can apply again. We don't always recommend it. It's expensive. You have to pay the fee again and reschedule a new appointment. But if you think that you didn't have a chance to tell your story to the officer, or if you were too nervous and you couldn't get it out, or if you forgot how to speak English all of a sudden, again, because you're nervous, we understand it can be stressful coming to the embassy and talking to us through the window. You can apply again.
I would also ask you to consider if you've got some evidence or something that you didn't think that the first officer saw, please bring that to the second interview as well, and make sure that you can present that to the second officer that you're interviewing with.
Great. We have another question from Alina. She's wondering when is the first day of the interview is going to be.
Now.
Yes, kind of. We are opening appointments today, March 11th. So, and we have the usual 2-week rule. So the first actual interview at the embassy will be March 25th, Monday. And we will have our interviews, conduct our interviews till May 31st, as usual. That means that you can schedule, the last day you can schedule your interview is May 17th, so 2 weeks in advance of May 31st. So we will start interviews March 25th, and you can start scheduling your interviews today. We have a question from Daria. This year, can a student stay in the USA later than September 1st, to travel as a tourist? If the student's actual date of the start of the classes is September 4th. So that's a question about grace period, actually.
Well, I think we used to look at this maybe a little bit looser than we do today. Maybe 5 or 10 years ago, it was pretty common that students would come back maybe a month after school started, and it wasn't really a big deal. In the last few years, the State Department and the U.S. government has paid more attention to this. And it's our requirement now that you be back by the time school starts and by the time your program dates end. So what that means is, if you want to travel around, and we encourage you to do so, you need to do it before the September 1st end date, so that you can get back here in time. Even if your university starts September 4th, we've set kind of a common start date or a common end date for the program to make sure that we capture most of the universities. So the end date on your DS 2019 is the date you really should be leaving the United States.
I would also wanted to mention that if you are going to travel, you can travel like inside the United States. It's not, you cannot use your visa again if you leave the United States and you want to come back during the course of the program. So just like plan accordingly.
That's actually a good point.
Very good point.
Because the visa you get is a multi-entry visa, so meaning it looks like you can go back in and out. However, we have had some students who had a hard time trying, if they went to Mexico or to the Bahamas, and they try and come back after their program date is ended to fly back to the U.S., they can really get a hard time at the border, and we don't want you to have any trouble.
So really, if you want to do a couple of days travel, like you'd ask in your question, you're just going to have to work that out with your employer and with your sponsor about ending your employment a few days early so you can travel around, which we do recommend you do, because U.S. is a great big country and there's a lot of stuff to see there.
Okay, another question from Katerina. If a person has an empty passport, like no visas, no travel, will that influence the officer's decision during the interview?
Like we discussed earlier, travel is one of the things we look at, but it's not the only thing we look at. So you shouldn't feel like you're not going to get the visa just because you haven't traveled outside of Ukraine before.
We issue lots of visas to people with empty passports.
Okay, we have another question from Instagram this time. Can a foreign student apply in Ukraine? So third country nationals.
Yes, actually, we have quite a few we call them third country nationals, meaning people who live and study in Ukraine but aren't Ukrainian citizens. And they're welcome to apply for us, to apply with us for some work and travel visa. We do look at a lot of factors, how long they've been here, how their studies are going, things like that, but they're welcome to apply.
Okay, let's move on to another question. What is the overstay rate for some work and travel Ukrainian participants in 2018, and therefore what will be the visa issuance rate, I guess, for the season 2019?
Well, as I said, at this point we're still really trying to figure out exactly what that rate is and how it works. If you look at public statistics, like the Department of Homeland Security, they publish overstay statistics for Ukraine for J1s and F1s, which are student visas. And so we do look at that rate when we're deciding or how to evaluate students for this year. At this point, I don't think there's anything specific that I can say about what the visa rate will be. We never have a quota. We never have a requirement of how many students we have to issue or have to refuse. It's really, we try to evaluate every individual student.
Okay, next question is from Mikola. He wants to know whether the year of study and the kind of university and the faculty he's studying in will have any weight during his visa interview for issuing a visa.
We issue students that are studying every subject under the sun, and so now there's not one particular course that is going to be favored or that will not get you a visa or will get you a visa. So yeah, we issue students that are studying everything. We like the diversity.
Yes, I'll just want to add a little bit that we the only credible participants are participants who are studying in universities that are accredited by Ukrainian government. So we have there's a list on the website of Ministry of Education of Ukraine, and only those people who are studying in those universities can participate. We have another question from Instagram. What should level of English be?
Well, I think we already talked about that a little bit. The level of English needs to be good enough that you can go get a job in the U.S., that you can take care of yourself, that you can ask for help if you get into trouble. And I would say in general, from last year looking at our interviews, most of the students had a level of English that was high enough to qualify for the program. There were a couple, I think, who came in and they were a little bit too nervous, or maybe they hadn't been practicing their grammar or something, and they occasionally did have a hard time. But in general, I didn't see a lot of that last year.
Yeah. That's a big reason why it's important to just. And we know it's nerve-wracking. We know it's an intimidating situation, but try and relax as much as possible during the interview, because that's going to help your English fluency when you do that.
True. Okay, we have another question from Maxim. Does an experience of visiting Canada as an exchange student influence the decision of the officer?
I think that kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier about just your travel history in general. Yeah, it's one of the things that we're going to look at, but it's not the only thing. So.
Okay, another question from Ilya. How do marks in a student book influence your decision during the interview, and is it a very significant point?
Well, I mean, the requirement for the program is only that you be enrolled. Naturally, if you're not doing very well and there's a chance that you may not pass to the next course, that may make it tougher for you to qualify for your summer work and travel visa. But we don't really have a strict marker. We don't look for a certain grade point average or a certain level. We wanted to see that you're making normal progress in your studies.
Okay, another question from Olga. Does it influence the officer's decisions that I changed the university, like switched to another university? And students of which year of studies have more chances of getting a visa? Well,
I think just from my perspective, no, I'm not going to hold it against you if you've changed universities, but I would like for you to be able to explain to me why you decided to switch universities, and just if you can give me a good answer for that, then that's fine.
That's right. A lot of us ourselves either changed majors or changed universities when we were students, so we certainly understand that, but you should be prepared to explain it, as Will said.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a question that yes, another one from Elizabeth. Would any denials in B1, B2 visa affect a J1 visa decision?
Well, I think part of it depends on how long ago it was. If you applied for a B1, B2 visa, a month ago, and now you're going to come for summer work and travel interview, that may be a negative factor for you. So you might want to think whether it's worth it for you to apply this year. On the other hand, if you had a B1, B2 visa refusal from 15 years ago when you were 3, along with your parents, that's really not going to have a lot of impact on us or on your visa adjudication.
Yeah. There are different visa categories, so there's different standards that you have to meet for them. So they're looked at slightly differently.
But going back to filling out the visa application, make sure that you do mark it on there if you were refused a visa.
Yeah.
Yes. Another question from Instagram. Someone wants to know whether they have to find their like an apartment when they have visa already and they travel to the United States. Do they have to find their apartment themselves, or is it like part of the program? Is it included? Well, this is
I'm guessing that's someone who hasn't actually talked to one of the summer work and travel agencies.
I guess, yeah.
Because I'm sure they would tell you that, but I'm sure you can answer.
Yes, you can. It's not a part of the program per se, but you don't really have to find your apartment yourself. You will apply when you apply for a visa. You will apply through the approved agency here in Ukraine, and they will help you find a job in the U.S. through an approved U.S. sponsored organization, and those sponsoring organizations will help you find your accommodation in the United States. So you will have like advice and help in that. You don't have to do it yourself.
And it really depends on you, depending on the job that you choose and how much assistance you want from the agency or from the U.S. sponsor or from the employer. There's a whole range of things. For example, people that go work in summer camps as camp counselors or as, let's say, cafeteria workers, then their housing is always provided because you're living out in the middle of the forest somewhere. On the other hand, if you're going to be working, let's say, in a bigger city somewhere in the South or the Midwest, the employer may give you some assistance, but it may really be up to you to find a room to rent in the end. As the program has evolved over the years, I think at the State Department, we expect the employers and the agencies or sponsors in the U.S. to do more to help you to find housing, to make sure that you have a safe and affordable place to live. And if you don't, then you can call your sponsor or you can call the State Department for assistance.
Okay, we have another question from Oleg. He wants to know how long does the visa interview take place?
How long is the interviews are usually I mean, they seem like they go really fast. They can take anywhere from, they usually take a couple of minutes. There's no set time for the interview. There's no minimum threshold. There's no maximum threshold. So the officer will take as long as they need to.
Okay, another question from Instagram. What do you think about lifeguard job for summer work and travel program?
Right. Well, if you look
Very
at
common.
if you look at the State Department website for J1s, you'll see that there's all kinds of professions that you're allowed to have, and some that you're not allowed to have. It used to be that we let people have almost any kind of job. I remember 15 years ago, 12 years ago, people would go work in fish factories in Alaska, in jobs that were really hard, and they made a lot of money, but they didn't have much contact with Americans, and they didn't have much chance to go travel around and experience America. And that's really the goal of this program, right? We want you to go and have fun and learn about the U.S. So now the jobs are a little more restricted. Most of them are in tourism and hospitality. So that means you get a chance to talk to American citizens every day, people who are coming to the business where you're working. And lifeguard job is certainly one of those. For us in the State Department, a lot of us, when we change jobs, we live in the Washington, D.C. area. And I can tell you almost every lifeguard we have is somewhere from, let's say, Eastern Europe. So whether they're from Slovakia or Slovenia or Poland or Ukraine, a lot of the lifeguards in the D.C. area are summer work and travel students.
Right. And in my apartment, lifeguard is summer work and travel student. So.
Yeah, and it's a fun job. I mean, it's a lot of hours. You have to, a lot of sitting around and trying to be alert to make sure you're taking care of the people who are swimming. But at the same time, I think it's a fun job. You get to talk to people and be outside.
Okay, we have another question. It's a funny one. Does piercing, tattoo, and dyed hair influence the decision of the consular officer?
Absolutely not. It's not gonna have any influence either way.
Because I can tell you some of our staff have piercings
Right.
and tattoos and
Dyed hair,
so it's
yeah.
no problem. The main thing is that your employer is okay with it. Some employers may have dress standards or appearance standards, but as long as they know about it and you have your job offer, it's not an issue for us.
Okay, we have another question from Maria. Which student has more chances of getting a visa? The student who participates in some work and travel program for the first time, or student who already participated in the program?
It's the same situation we talked about earlier, where if it's just one of many factors that we look at. So.
Every student's individual, so we really can't say that categorically one has a better chance than the other.
Okay, let's move to another question from Natalia. Does political situation in Ukraine influence the visa issuance rate for Ukrainian students this year?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we always do consider the political situation in the country, of course, when we're issuing visas. And of course, the situation in the East is very difficult. We understand that and challenging. But in general, we haven't seen a lot of issues with that related to some work and travel adjudications. So it's not something specifically that we consider. Especially this year compared to other years, it won't be any different.
Okay, we have another question, a slightly personal one. Why did I get rejected on my third application? I already participated in some work and travel program 2 years in a row, and I followed the rules. I've shown I can abide by U.S. immigration law.
Okay. Well, we said earlier that just because you've been refused a visa before, that doesn't guarantee your refusal this go around. It's a similar situation. Just because you participate in some work and travel in the past is not going to guarantee you opportunity to participate in the program this year. So we look at the entire student, and we look at the totality of your circumstances, and sometimes, unfortunately, we wind up refusing students that have participated before.
Yeah.
We have another question. Are final year students eligible to participate?
Seems like we get this question every
Yeah.
year, I think. Final year students are eligible to participate. But I think especially in Ukraine, considering the economic situation, it can really be challenging for final year students to show they have sufficient ties here to compel their return at the end of their program. So while they're eligible to participate, I think their burden or their it's a little bit of a challenge for them to show that they're going to come back at the end of the program.
Okay, we have another question about is there only one consular officer that makes the visa decision for a student, or is it a joint decision of several consular officers?
It's the sole discretion of the consular officer that is interviewing at the time. I'll add on to that. If you've been refused before and you're applying again, you will get a different consular officer for your second interview. When you do that, please, we can see who has interviewed with us before, and we're very conscientious about not interviewing the same applicant twice. But please allow us to direct you to the next officer that will take your interview. Don't pop into the window and be like, oh no, and try and run to another window because you've had that officer before, because that looks pretty bad if you do that. So.
Okay, we have another question from Alina. If I have a valid British visa, does it influence your decision in getting an American visa?
I think that's kind of the same answer we gave before, which is we do look at travel history and where you've gone and why you went and what you did. We do look at that as part of our evaluation, but there's no single factor that will be a plus or a minus. So if you do have a prior passport, that's one of the things I'm sure that the agency will tell you, which is we recommend you bring all your old foreign passports with you when you come so that we can take a look at them and see where you've traveled.
Okay, we have another question here. Crimean students are interested whether there are any limitations or special conditions for them for applying for a visa today. And actually, there's another part of the question. Crimean students and students from Donetsk and Lugansk, can they apply for the program, and are there any limitations or special conditions for them? Well, the only issue for us is that your university is accredited by Ukrainian government. So if your university was located in Donetsk, Lugansk, or Crimea, that they moved to Ukraine properly and they are accredited by the Ukrainian government properly. That's our only concern.
Yeah, there's no geographic restrictions on who can apply. No.
Okay, we have a little bit of a pause. Oh no, we have a question from Victoria. For students who are getting their master's degree, so they're in their final year, what can be how can they prove that they are planning to come back to Ukraine and get on with their studies?
Well, yeah, I mean, because there's no single factor that's going to show that. I think sometimes students try and create some background so that they can try and make it show that they're going to come back. But I think the best thing that you can do is be honest and talk with us about what your plans are for the future.
We have another question from Eugene, where he wants to know where he can check the list of accredited agencies, and how can he let us know about any, schemes going on. Well, we actually posted the list of accredited agencies on our website already. You can check that out. And if you know of any schemes that are going on during the process of your application for a visa, please let us know. There's an email on our website where you can just write us an email and let us know that something's wrong is going on, and we'll take that into account.
Or you can write us at Kyiv NIV, so it's KYIV NIV at state.gov. And we'd be happy if you feel that you've been defrauded, or if there's anything strange going on, please do let us know. We really are interested.
We have another question from Eugene. Is it illegal to stay at least one extra day till September 2nd, for example? Does it affect your next interview decision of getting another visa, for example, a tourist visa? Well,
No, we expect students to come back by the time the program ends, and the return date is September 1st. And I just know, as a visa officer, if I see that somebody has not used their visa as we expect them to do that, that will definitely influence my decision.
Another question from Marina. Do you check the activity in social networks, and does it influence your visa decision?
Well, we rely on a whole series of different things when we evaluate visa applications and visa applicants. We have a lot of sources of information, and we use a variety of sources to reach our decision. So we don't specifically check social media. We don't have the time or the resources to check every single applicant and look at their social media. But it doesn't mean that we can't do it at the same time. So, and each case is different, and so we do the best that we can to evaluate our applicants.
Okay, we have another question from Victoria. Is it hard to get a B1, B2 visa, so a tourist visa, after a J1? So I don't know what exactly Victoria means, whether she got denied a J1 or she actually
Possibly.
participated in a J1. Well, it's
Every applicant's
Yeah.
individual. I think sometimes it can be hard if you don't have a lot of history of travel and you went on your J1 SWT and you came back on time, and then all of a sudden you want to go back again. And we understand that you make friends, you make all kinds of acquaintances, you meet people, and it's fun to go back and see the same people that you were working with or hanging out with over the summer. But sometimes for students, it can be hard for them to qualify. So we can't say for sure it's hard or not, because it depends on every individual student.
Okay, we have another question. Is it allowed to schedule visa interviews for some work and travel program using the option of travel coordinator? Or is it mandatory to schedule the visa interview using the student's own profile with his own login and password? Okay, it's a very technical question, yes. Well, you will have to schedule your own visa interview using your own account. Just follow our instructions that we will post today. But usually agency through which you're applying, they know all the rules and all our instructions, so they will help you out with scheduling your visa interview for the date that you want. Okay, another question. Full-time student lost his student ID card, and that's some drama. The university refuses to give him a new one until the beginning of the next academic year. Okay, if your student ID card is lost and you are not going to get a new one till the next year, just bring us a letter from your university stating that you are an actual student at that university. So just a letter with a proper stamp and a signature from the university will be okay if you lost your student card.
And it happens a lot. You won't be the
Yes.
first one to come
Yeah.
with a letter instead of your card. But as always, as Anna said, talk to your agency because they know how to deal with this. We're always in touch with the agencies. We talk to them, and they can always reach out to us if they have questions. So really the first resource that you can use is your agency because they should be able to help you.
And as for the list of required documents for the interview, we will also post it. You will see it in the instructions that we will post today. But the main documents that you need for your visa interview is your international passport, a valid one, your DS-160 confirmation page. Then you will get your form DS-2019. It's a form that you will need to participate in the J1 exchange some work and travel program. And we will also need a student ID card or a letter from your university. Then you'll have a job offer from your sponsor that your sponsor in the US will send you. And this is the basic documents that we will need, and also the insurance. This is the basic documents that we will need for the interview, and you will see the whole list in the instructions that we'll post. Okay, another question.
I'll piggyback off that. Also bring any documents that you think may be important for your case, like bank documents, old passports, anything that you think that can show that you're a credible student that you plan on returning to Ukraine. But don't be surprised if the officer doesn't look at it because it's an interview-driven process. So please be prepared. Please bring the documents, but just know the officer may not look at all of them.
Actually, another part of the question, Elizabeth wants to know whether you as an officer need a student's parents' bank statement.
No, I mean in general, I don't think we expect you guys to come with letters from your parents' employers. We may ask what your parents do or what kind of work they have, so it's good if you can answer that. I have had students who didn't really know what their parents did, which is always interesting. But in general, you don't have to have a spravka or anything official.
Okay, we have another question from Paul. He wants to know whether if he participated in a DV lottery, does it influence the officer's decision during some work and travel interview?
Well, we know that a lot of people like to play the DV lottery, and so that's one of the things we do take into account because one of the things you got to show is you do intend to return to Ukraine upon the completion of your program, and if you've applied for the DV lottery, there is at least you've at least entertained the idea of moving to the United States, and so you can expect to answer questions to be asked questions about that.
Okay, we have another question. Please, okay, if a student was refused a visa in 2 different countries already, can it influence his or her chances in getting an American visa for the program, I guess?
Well, it probably doesn't help, right? I think if someone's been refused a visa to the EU or to the UK or Canada, there's a good chance that we may know about that, or we may see that in your passport, and we're going to certainly ask you about it. As we'll keep saying over and over again, it's an individual process, which means every person is looked at individually. So in that case, you need to be prepared to explain about what happened and why you were refused.
Okay, we have another question. Can I ask my friend to help fill in the DS-160 application form? Yes, you can, but just there will be a question in the end of the application, DS-160 application form, whether there was anyone helping you fill in this form, and you should indicate that friend who helped you. That's all we need to to know from in this case. Okay, I think we're gonna have another question from Instagram. Can I apply?
That's the same question.
It's the same question, yes, about the lost ID card. Yes, you can apply if you lost your student ID card. It's okay. Just bring us the letter from your university stating that you're actually a student in that university. If I registered, we have another question. If I registered for the interview and booked my appointment, but I am unable to come to my interview, can I reschedule my appointment? Yes, you can. You reschedule your appointment. You have 3 options, I guess. You can reschedule your appointment 2 times. So you have 3 chances to have a visa interview. Just remember that we have a limited number of slots. So we will be conducting interviews till May 31st. So just if you need to reschedule, just keep in mind that you will need to do it as soon as possible to make sure that there are enough slots left for students applying.
Yeah, a lot of times later in the season we get more demand. So sometimes people, especially, are waiting for their DS 2019 forms to come from the U.S. They have to be shipped, UPS or express mail here to Ukraine, the original form. So we do kind of sometimes see a boom at the end. So it's best if you can keep your original date. But if something happens and you can't, we understand. You can reschedule, and you can do it all online.
Okay, let's move on to the next question. What will happen if I forget to inform my U.S. program sponsor about my arrival to the U.S. and register on their webpage? Well, you shouldn't forget to do that because then your service status will not be updated on time. Your U.S. sponsor is responsible for keeping your service status updated, and this is a very important part of participating in the program. So please make sure that you inform your sponsor when you arrive to the U.S. and this person who is responsible for you knows that you are in the country and you're okay and you're safe, and so that they can update your service status accordingly and on time. We have another question from Anna. Is it more of an advantage or disadvantage if a student already participated in the summer work and travel program?
It's one factor out of many. It's not going to tip it one way or the other, regardless of what your situation is.
The next question is, what should I do if I get fired? Well, again,
we hope you don't get fired.
Yes.
Please don't get fired. Show up on time.
Yeah.
Dress appropriately. Do what they tell you.
Right.
Everything will be okay. But if you do get fired, and as Anna already mentioned about keeping in touch with your sponsor, that's part of the reason that you pay all the money for this program to the agency and the sponsor, is for them to help take care of you. So if you have trouble, if you get fired, definitely contact your sponsor. They have a toll-free number that you can call anytime. You can email them, and they will help you. And they'll help you hopefully to find a new job. You do need to find a new job, or else if you decide that you get fired and you just want to travel the last couple of weeks, that's okay too. But you need to let your sponsor know so they can make sure that you have the correct status in the system.
Okay, we have another question. Can I change my job if I find a better paid position when I'm in the U.S.? Well, yes, that's also possible, but you should do it through the U.S. sponsor because they are in charge of you and they keep track of what you do and where you are.
Generally, they have to clear the new employer,
the
so
job,
you have to
yeah.
submit it ahead of time and say, I want to change jobs, I want to go from, I don't know, McDonald's to KFC. And so then they will look at the job offer that you have from KFC, and they'll decide if it's an appropriate job for you to hold and meets their program requirements. And if they approve, then you can change jobs, no problem.
Okay, we have another question from Alexandra. What kind of questions should I know before the interview? So like, she wants to know what kind of questions are you guys gonna be
Well,
asking?
don't look at it in the sense of coming in with a feel like
list.
you've got to have memorized a set of answers for a bunch of preordained questions. Just be prepared to be honest about yourself, what your study plans is, what your career plans are.
Yeah, we won't quiz you on the
Yeah.
U.S. Constitution or the Bill of Rights, so don't worry about that. But we are going to ask questions about your background, about your travel, about your education and your study to make sure that you're conversational in English, and then we'll go from there. There's not really much you need to know ahead of time.
You might question them about the William Wilberforce
that's
pamphlet, though.
That's right,
We will
yeah.
post the link to that pamphlet in the comments to this web chat later. Just like make sure that you've read it and you understand what it's about, because that's an important part to know what your rights as an employee in the United States are, and how to get help if you need one. We have another question from Elena. Shall a student show a certificate of English if he or she has one?
Feel free.
It's
Feel
not a
free. Feel free. It's not a requirement. Feel free to bring one if you'd like. I know that I'm going to be judging your English ability based on the conversation that we have at the window.
Right. I think that's the biggest thing to remember. A lot of you may have applied for visas in other countries, whether it was to the EU or Schengen countries when you guys needed visas, or for the UK or other places. Our process is different. Our process is not really based on paper. Our process is based on people. So what that means is, even if you have a certificate that shows that you have the highest level, whatever that is, C, or whatever the European scale is, if you have the highest level of English, but you can't answer my questions about where you're going to work, you're probably not going to receive your visa. So for us, what's more important is you being ready to talk to us and to tell us about your situation.
Okay, we have another question from Dasha. If I work officially in Ukraine and I do intend to come back to work after the program, does it increase my chances of getting a visa? Well, again,
Yeah,
I think we answered it
it's
a
one of
little bit.
the it's one of the things that we'll definitely look at. And we'll definitely take that into account. But it's not. It's like I said before. It's not a magic bullet. So.
Okay, Eugene wants to know how much is the actual price for the interview fee in hryvnia, in Ukrainian hryvnia. Well,
It changes. Depends.
yes. We have a fixed price in US dollars, so depending on the rate, US dollar to Ukrainian hryvnia rate in a certain period of time, it might vary in Ukrainian hryvnia.
But you can find that on our website.
Yes.
And also when you actually get ready to make your appointment, when you fill out on the appointment site, when you fill out your information, it will print a deposit slip for you that you have to take to the bank, and that will show the exact amount in hryvnia you have to pay.
Okay, there was another question about visa refusal, and does it influence getting a visa this year? Well, we mentioned that it's one of the points that we'll take into account.
You should be prepared to show how your circumstances are different this year as opposed to last year.
We have another question from Victoria. What's your perfect match for giving a visa? Like location of the job, kind of the vacancy, start date, year of the university, and so on and so forth.
I said there is no perfect match.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, and there's no statistics.
But the
like
best
that,
thing that you
yeah.
can do to give
Yeah.
yourself a good chance, as we said, is to be honest, practice your English, be ready to talk to us, be ready to answer the questions that we ask.
Yes, another question, can applicant choose the language of the interview?
Yeah. Ordinarily,
Not in this case.
Yeah, not in this case. Ordinarily for B1, B2s, we try and accommodate English versus Russian versus Ukrainian for whatever an applicant's comfortable with. For this, since you're expected to be proficient in English enough to get a job in the United States, we're going to conduct the interview in English.
Yeah. So in this case, you can choose any language you want as long as it's English.
Okay, another question. I don't have my job offer yet and documents from the sponsor. When is the last day I can schedule my visa interview? The last day you can schedule your visa interview is May 17th. So that's the last day of scheduling, but the last day that we will be actually conducting interviews will be May 31st.
And I would say don't worry if you don't have your documents yet. It's really early in the season. It's a lot of work for the sponsors in the U.S. to print out all these forms and get them sent over here. So don't worry if you don't have it yet. Talk to your agency. They will tell you what to do and when to schedule. But I do think it's really advice that I give to the agencies is that they really shouldn't have you guys schedule until you already have your DS-2019 form. Because if you show up to the interview without it, then that's really hard for us. So we would prefer that you only come to your interview when you have your original DS-2019 in your hand.
And actually, we have another question. If I applied for a visa, but instead of the visa, I got a yellow sheet of paper. What does it mean, and what should I do next?
Well, first thing you need to do is read the yellow sheet of paper very carefully, because that's going to give you specific instructions on what you need to do next. This is the paper we give when we're putting a case in a hold. And so this could be for any number of reasons. You may or may not have to do something. So read the paper very carefully and ask the officer when you receive it what it means exactly and what you need to do.
Usually it means either that we have more work to do or you have more work to do. In some cases, we might need more information from you or ask you for an additional document or something else. And in that case, we'll mark right on the form what you need. In some cases, we might have more work to do on our end. And in that case, you'll get a box check that says your case is undergoing additional processing.
I just wanted to add to the previous question about getting your documents from your U.S. sponsor late. If that happens, you or your agency should let us know if you understand that it's coming closer to the end of the season and you haven't gotten your documents. Just let us know so we can just check whether we can do something or just make sure that you have slots available if an emergency like this happens. Okay.
It's a long question.
It is.
Can you scroll down a little more?
Yeah.
Okay. That's no actual question. Yeah.
That's actually an easy question.
Okay. The person wants to know whether they will be whether we will be recording this Facebook chat. Yes, we will be. You will be able to watch it on Facebook later. And actually, you will be able to watch it on Instagram as well. So whichever you prefer.
Yeah, so you can always go to our Facebook page and go to events or to videos, and you'll find this video there.
Okay, another question from Roman. Does the president, if a student, has any relatives in the U.S., does it affect your decision of giving him or her a visa?
Again, it's one of the things. We're certainly look at if you've got relatives in the United States, but that could be both a positive and a negative. So it's hard to say. It's hard to say without looking at the total picture.
There's a long and close relationship between the United States and Ukraine, and there's a big diaspora of Ukrainian heritage people inside the United States. So we understand that. Lots of people have relatives in the U.S. It's not specifically a bad thing or a good thing. It depends on each student.
Okay, we have another question from Yelena. How can I prove that I will come back to Ukraine?
Just come to the interview and tell the truth, and make sure that you're prepared for the interview, and that's going to be your best shot.
Okay, another question. Can Indian students apply for the program in Ukraine, I guess?
I assume in Ukraine.
Yes.
I assume Indian students can apply in India.
Yeah.
But,
well, yes, you can apply, but just keep in mind that officers here might have a hard time knowing the actual situation in your country, and to evaluate the factors that might influence the visa decision. So, if you're studying here, you can apply, of course, in Ukraine or in India. You can choose. Another question is from Alexander. am I able to get a J1 visa, I guess, for a summer work and travel program when I'm not 18 at the moment of the interview? Again, we don't have any specific age requirements for the program, as long as you're a bona fide student. And if you're a first-year student, we just need to make sure that you completed the first semester of your studies. So by that point, you should have a grade book and, with your exam grades for the first semester. So we're going to check that. We have a little break. Okay. I'm just going to remind you that you can start scheduling your interviews today, and the first day of the interviews will be March 25th. So that's when we're going to see you in front of our windows.
And Anna, did you already open them up today at the appointments?
Yes, the appointments are open.
So I think
already.
I saw we already have some booked, so some people jumped the gun.
really
Yes,
got
there
a
was.
fast
start.
Yes, there was a little, I guess, a glitch in the system, but it's okay. We're gonna have some first interviews next week, but that's just like 10 people, I think.
Yes.
Not
Got
much.
some motivators.
Yes.
Is what it is.
And I saw already 20, I think,
Yeah.
20 or more for the week after.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
people are already starting to book.
Okay, another question from Nikita. I participated in this program for the last 2 years. It's just a comment. It's a nice program and an awesome cultural experience. Well, thank you.
Thanks.
Well, we think it's a good
Yeah.
cultural experience too. I mean, that's the
Yes.
reason we do this program, because it's one of the ways that we can give Ukrainian young people a chance to see the United States, to see how things work, to see how things go, and for Americans to learn about Ukrainians as well, for you to tell your story to the people that you meet in the United States.
Okay, and we have another question from Victoria. In case I get refused a visa, can I find out the reason of visa refusal? An exact reason, I guess.
Yeah. We'll give you a letter that explains the reason for the refusal, and that's what you should take. Like I said before, if you disagree with the decision of the officer, you're welcome to apply again, and you should be prepared to provide any additional information for the next officer that you interview.
Yeah, maybe I can talk just for a minute
Yeah.
about how U.S. immigration law works, right? So Congress has established the law that we work under, and it establishes a really high bar, because basically it says that the consular officer, meaning Will, for example, has to assume that every visa applicant who comes up intends to either stay or do something illegal in the United States. And it's up to that visa applicant, meaning you, to prove to the consular officer that you're not going to go do something bad, that you're not going to stay, that you're going to come back on time, that you're really a student, that you're going to go work and have a good time and make some money and come home. And so in general, if we refuse a visa, most of the time, unless you've already been convicted of a crime, which I hope you haven't, or have some sort of serious problem, we're going to refuse your visa under this section 214D. And what that means is that you have not managed to convince the consular officer that you're going to come back on time. And so when you say, do we get the exact reason, that's the most exact reason that you can get, is
Right.
that unfortunately you weren't able to convince the officer. And so that's what we give. And I know, again, those of you who have experience getting visas in other countries, maybe their process is a little bit different, right? Especially, let's say, for Poland 3 or 4 years ago, if the health insurance wasn't right, they would refuse your application because you didn't have the right health insurance. Generally, we're not going to do that. We're going to give you a chance to fix it rather than refusing it. But if you can't convince the consular officer, then we can't issue you a visa.
This is a decision that we do not take these decisions lightly. We don't make them whimsically. We do our best to try and come to the correct decision, because you have paid for an interview and you have paid for a fair shot, and so we're going to do our best to give you that.
Okay, we have another question from Boris. Is it normal if my agency informed me that they are changing my sponsor in US after I already passed the job interview and paid all the fees to them? Or should I start to worry? I didn't have any interview with my sponsor, I guess the new sponsor. So there is no problem from my side, and all the documents required by sponsor were presented on time.
Well, if you really are concerned, as we said, you can always write us, either at the address on the website or at Kyiv NIV, KYIV NIV at state.gov. In general, the agencies, they're businesses, so they can change the sponsor that they work with. Some of them also work with multiple sponsors at one time. So maybe they ran out of numbers with one sponsor and they're going to move you to another sponsor. So there's reasons that could happen that might be okay. But unfortunately, we really can't say exactly. I think it is normal, potentially, they can change your sponsor. If you know any more about that.
Not really, but just like if you're really worried that something wrong is going on, just email us and we should try and investigate.
Yeah, the important thing is that you get your DS 2019 form
Yes.
from your new sponsor. That's the key thing that's going to show everything is okay.
Another question from Alexander. If I was already alone, if I was already in the U.S. at the age of 16 and I was alone visiting my relatives, would that affect the result of me getting a visa? I guess a J1 visa for the program. I already have a 10-year B1, B2 visa, tourist visa.
It's something that we'll look at, but we're going to take it in conjunction with all the other factors that are involved with your studies. So.
Okay, no other questions? Okay, shall we wrap up
Is that
then?
about it? No, I think we're good.
One more?
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Just wait a little bit then.
We'll talk about some of our summer jobs, maybe. Yeah.
Anya, did you have a summer job?
Yeah.
No, I didn't participate in the program.
But did you have a summer
unfortunately.
job in Ukraine?
Oh, yes, I helped my family with the business that they were having. So it wasn't exactly a cultural experience.
Yeah, I worked in retail. I spent my summer stocking shelves for minimum wage. So that was
Well, let's see, my first year of college, after my first year of college, I spent the summer working at McDonald's. So that was
that's fun.
a traditional American experience,
Yeah.
right? Working at McDonald's for
Yeah.
minimum wage. But I had a good time. I made some friends, earned a little bit of money to run around with for the summer. And then my second summer, I worked for a big insurance company. Back in the old days, before we used to scan everything, we had tons and tons of paper. And so my job was to file paper. And so I was opening up statements and filing them away. And it paid a little better, not minimum wage, but it was a little more fun. And then after that, I think my last couple of years, I didn't work.
yeah. Yeah. Doesn't have to be a big paycheck, but the first paycheck you get feels good. So.
Okay, and let's proceed to the last question for today from Roxalana. Who chooses the time and date of the interview, consulate or agency? And will there be several options or just one period of time when you can come for the interview? Well, we open slots starting today till May 31st. So you can choose any date that suits you, any date and time that suits you best. Your agency usually helps you schedule those appointments, but you can go to our website and just check through your profile, check the first available date, and choose the one that suits you best.
And usually our appointments are in the morning. Unless we're really, really busy, then we might open some afternoons. But I think this year it looks like we're in good shape. So we will have all our appointments will be in the morning. So you can choose the time, especially if you're coming from somewhere not in Kiev. If you're coming from the west or the south, you can time it so that you can take your train or however you're going to get here, and then come for your visa interview.
Okay, that was our last question for today, and I think we can wrap up.
Yeah.
I'm just going to remind everyone that you can start scheduling your appointments today, and the first interview date is March 25th.
Great. And thanks for your attention. Thanks for the good
Thank you.
questions.
Yes.
Yep.
And we will post all the important links to our website and to the scheduling interviews website to the comments in the comments to this web chat. So you'll be able to see them and follow them.
Yep. See you next time.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you.